Right.
Next up here, we have this bold new plan that I guess the U.S. military and Elon Musk are teaming up to build a rocket delivery system or a missile delivery system where they're going to have, I guess, this stored somewhere in space and be able to launch these rockets full of missiles, I guess, at 700 or 7,500 miles per hour to deliver them anywhere in the world, and it should be able to get anywhere in about an hour. So, Will, is this the coolest new weapon system that's gonna protect all of America from all of our enemies, or what's going on with this thing?
I mean, it sounds, it sounds pretty impressive what they're saying. They're saying it could make a trip from like Florida to Afghanistan, which is like 7,600 miles, in like just an hour. And whereas like a cargo plane would take 15 hours to do it. So we're talking like 15 times faster than what, an aircraft could do. And unlike an aircraft, a rocket doesn't need to like refuel in midair. It doesn't need permission to fly over foreign airspace. It's harder to shoot down. So there are some advantages, even in addition to the speed. But it basically sounds like a ICBM, but like, instead of carrying a warhead from continent to continent, it's going to carry cargo, which of course I think what they have in mind is like weapons, like you said, either missiles or like it can carry like 80 tons of gear. So like that's like an M1 Abrams tank and some change. So quite a bit of stuff they could haul, they could bring to pretty much any location on Earth in a moment's notice. That's all pretty sounds pretty impressive, but like honestly, this project is kind of alarming to me. Like when you're talking about putting weapons into orbit, I just think that is like a threshold that we shouldn't really be crossing. Like when you start militarizing space, you might begin with cargo. Maybe this begins with just vehicles or something, and you're not talking about real heavy weaponry. But certainly, it's not going to stop there. Like how long until we are talking about real heavy weapons stationed in space? Or I've mentioned before, I think on the show, what happens when the nuclear triad becomes the nuclear quadrad, and we're now talking about nuclear weapons deployed in orbit. I just think this kind of project like opens up a lot of doors and possibilities that we maybe shouldn't be toying with. Like, I'm fully in favor of the commercialization of space, like, mining asteroids and even colonizing, the moon or other planets or whatever. All that stuff I think is great and like it's the future of humanity. But like the direction that SpaceX is taking this in, I just don't think I think that's the wrong direction, of militarizing space and putting weapons into orbit and stuff. And we have seen SpaceX like more and more going in this direction. Like, they're contracting with the Pentagon to build, I think, like missile tracking satellites. They've contracted with the new Space Force for like a multi-billion-dollar contract to do rocket launches. So unfortunately, SpaceX is really getting in on like the military gravy train, whereas it seems like before they were more talking about like civilian travel. And in fact, I think the whole like the idea for this cargo transport project, I think that originated with like civilian transport, and they're just like now applying that to the military realm. So I think that's unfortunate. But apparently the deal is done. Like SpaceX has signed its contract with the Pentagon, and they're supposed to start testing next year. So like this apparently is going forward, but they're still not totally sure if they can if this is even viable yet. Like obviously we can send missiles around. We can put stuff into orbit, but I think they're just wondering like, is this going to be cost effective? Will it be like useful for the things that they want it for? Because it's a lot of preparation to do a rocket launch. Like you might be able to get to a place in an hour once you have the rocket in orbit, but actually doing that like might take months or weeks. So it's not totally clear that this is even going to be like a viable project for the military.
Right, and I'm also concerned just if the military is effectively calculating in the fact that this is going to have a response from other countries, specifically, I think Russia and China, who, if the U.S. starts to militarize space, is going to respond by also militarizing space and trying to either build these kind of weapons or weapons that could take out this U.S. rocket or something like that. They're gonna feel like this could be used against them. So they're going to have to, at the very least, build defenses, if not build equivalent like offensive or even upgraded offensive capabilities to counter what the U.S. Is doing with this. So, my guess is that probably the part of the Pentagon that's teaming up with Musk here and everything isn't really considering that aspect of it. That's probably a different department, and it's only going to increase this. Also, I think you bring up a really good point there with that. This is a part of the trend of SpaceX moving away from the civilian type of economic kind of real capitalism of bringing people to space, colonizing space, finding ways to reach different parts of what's around the Earth, and help it to enrich the rest of the planet, but rather now just moving into like the kind of trap of the Pentagon budget, where they'll get a bunch of money, but they're not going to develop technologies that effectively benefit the rest of us, and are things that people are really excited for and really want, which has kind of been what Elon Musk has attempted to do, I guess, is deliver products that people really want. But now he seems, like Jeff Bezos and the rest of them have found that it's just so much easier to get the money from the Pentagon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so much easier when an institution just like gathers up billions and trillions of dollars from other people and can just hand it out like that instead of having to actually compete for it. Go figure.